The highest exponent of a polynomial, a, is the degree. The number of terms that divides without a remainder, meaning if there's no remainder, it's a factor. So number 4 is B. An individual piece of a polynomial would be the number of terms there are. Determines the behavior of the graph at the zeros. That would be your multiplicity. And then the first number of a polynomial in standard form, the first number is your lead coefficient. For number 6, you have to subtract. The important thing to remember when subtracting is you need to distribute this negative. So this becomes a positive, and everything else behind it changes into a negative. So it would be negative 3x cubed, negative 2x squared, and positive 7. Then you just combine like terms. So you only have 1x cubed, 3x cubed. You have 2x squared and a negative 2x squared, which end up canceling each other out, which would be 0. Next you have a negative 4x, and then you have 2 constants. So 5 plus 7 is 12, and your answer is A. For number 7, you're multiplying. You have 2 terms times 2 terms, so you have to FOIL or use the box method. I'm going to FOIL, so 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times 8 is 16x. Negative 7 times 3x is negative 21x. Negative 7 times 8 is negative 56. Combine like terms. 6x squared. 16 minus 21 is negative 5x minus 56. Answer C. Number 8, you're dividing. I would rewrite this as a fraction, so you have x cubed minus 9x divided by x plus 3. Then you should factor out the top. You have a common factor of x in both terms. So this would be x squared minus 9, x plus 3. Still nothing you can do yet, so let's factor this. This is a difference of squares because you can multiply x and x to get x squared. You can multiply 3 and 3 to get 9. So this ends up becoming your x from the front, x plus 3, x minus 3 from your difference of squares, over x plus 3, which was already our denominator. Then anything you have on the top and the bottom cancels. Your answer ends up being x minus 3, which if you distributed that back out, you'd have x squared minus 3x, which is answer choice B. Number 9 is a word problem. It says if a rectangular garden has a length of 2x minus 3 and a perimeter that is equal to 14x plus 8, which of the following choices represents the width? To find perimeter, you add length plus width, or 2 lengths plus 2 widths. Now we know the length, so we have 2 times our length, but we don't know our width, so we're going to leave the w as what we're trying to figure out, and we know that that equals 14x plus 8 because that's our perimeter. Now all you're going to do is solve, so distribute. 2x times 2 is 4x, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, plus your 2 widths equals 14x plus 8. I'm going to move these over to the other side so I can get the width by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4x. Gives me 10x plus 8. Those cancel. Then I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Cancels here. 10x plus 14 equals 2 widths. To find just one width, we're going to divide by 2. And I'm going to divide both parts by 2. So 10x divided by 2 is 5x. 14 divided by 2 is 7. That's my width. Number 10 is another word problem. It says a small box has a length of x and a width of x plus 1 and a height of x minus 2. What is the volume of the box? To find volume, we're going to multiply all of our numbers. So our length, our width, and our height. So I have x times x plus 1 times x minus 2. You need to pick 2 and multiply them first. So I'm going to multiply these two first. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is x. Now I'm going to multiply that by my x minus 2. I have 2 terms times 2 terms, so I need to FOIL or use box method. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. X times x is x squared. And x times negative 2 is negative 2x. I can combine these like terms. I'll have x cubed minus 1x squared minus 2x, which is answer choice B. Number 11 says, which of the following is not a possible zero of this function? What that means is when you look at your P over Q, which of those answer choices can't work? So remember, P is your constant and you're looking for the factors of P. So the factors of 28 are 1 and 28, 2 and 14, can't do 3, but you can do 4 and 7, and that would be it. So you have 1, 2, 4, 7, 14, and 28 are your possible factors of 28. Now Q are your factors of 3. The only factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Now your answer choices. A says 1/2. Is there any way you can combine these and get 1/2? Well, no, because you don't have a 2 on the bottom. So 1/2 is not a possible zero. B says 14. Can you get 14 using these? Yes, you can do 14 over 1. So that one checks out. C says 3. Is there a way to get 3 out of these? No, because you don't have a 3 on the top, and none of these would simplify to give you 3. So 3 also does not work as a zero. And then D says 7 over 3. Is there a way to get 7 over 3? Yeah, right here, 7 over 3. So number 11 actually has 2 answers, A and C. Number 12 says, how do you know whether a polynomial is a factor of another polynomial? A factor will have no remainder when it's divided. So the answer would be A. Number 13 says to find all of the zeros of the function. What that means is if you have a graph Your zeros are where your graph crosses the x-axis, or where x is equal to 0. So if you're finding the zeros, you want to figure out where your equation will equal 0. If you type this into the calculator and fill in your choices, it should tell you. So if you try A, pick one of those numbers, say you pick 4. You're going to type in your calculator this, and it gives you 72, which is not 0, so that can't be the right answer. Let's try B. So you can pick either 8 or 1. Let's try 8. So I'm going to take the same thing, but now I'm going to put 8 where my x's are. When I type that in, it gives me 204, also not 0. So I'm going to try C. Let's try -8 since we have that in the calculator already. Just going to add my negatives. That one gives me 60, so that doesn't work. Now I assume the answer is D, but I'm going to double check just to be sure. The first one is 4, so I'm going to type it in, or sorry, -4. When I type that in, it gives me 0, so that works out. And just to be sure, I'm also going to type in 1/2, just to make sure I didn't mess up somewhere else. And that one also gives you 0. So your answer for that one is D. 14 says find the zeros for the following function. Same thing, you're going to plug in your answers, the answer choices, and see which one. So the first one I'm going to try is -2. Don't forget your parentheses when you're typing it in the calculator. When I type that in, I get 0. I would assume that A probably is correct, but if you look at C, that one also has a -2. So what you would need to do is continue to type in. Also type in 3. See if that gives you 0, and then also -3, which are your other choices for A. And they both give you 0, so your correct answer is A. 15 says what part of the polynomial tells you the number of zeros a function will have. If you had an example, say 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 4, you would know how many answers, how many zeros you have based on this number, your highest exponent. And that actually is your degree. So your degree tells you how many zeros. That's answer C. 16, what does the lead coefficient and degree determine about the graph of a function? So if we look at the same example, 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 4, our lead coefficient is 2, so the lead coefficient 2, which is positive. And our degree, the highest exponent, is 3, which is odd. And remember, your positive and odd you use your end behavior chart and it tells you which way your arrows go on your graph. These two things tell you the end behavior. So that would be answer choice B. 17, what is the y-intercept of the following function? The y-intercept means when x is 0. So when you look at your graph, when you don't move anywhere on x, you stay at 0, where is y going to be? So if x equals 0, we're going to plug in 0 for all of these x's. So 0 plus 2, 0 minus 3, and 0 minus 1 cubed. You can type that in your calculator. You can work it out. They're not very difficult. So you would have 2, negative 3, and negative 1. When you multiply those out, y equals 6. So your answer choices, if you're given the coordinate, your x was 0, right? And then your y is 6. So your answer is A. Number 18 is a lot like 13 and 14. You're going to plug in your answer choices and see which one of them will give you 0 for an answer. If you plug in A, 3, you get 54, which is not 0. I would go ahead and try your other numbers just to make sure. That one, when you type it in, gives you 0. When you type in 0, you also get 0. And when you type in 2, you also get 0. So your answer, the one that is not a 0, is A. For 19, it says, what is the end behavior? Remember, for end behavior, you're going to use this chart. We have even and odd, positive and negative. Okay. In order to find out if it's even or odd, we need to look at the degree. So to look at the degree, you look at all of your exponents and you add them together. Here we have 2, here we have 2, and here we have an invisible 1. 2 plus 1 plus 2 is 5, which is an odd number. So we're looking at the odd section. And then to know if a function is positive or negative, we're looking at the lead coefficient. And in this case, we have a negative 1, which just means we're looking at the negatives. So our end behavior is this one right here. It's going to go up, down, which is choice C. And number 20, which equation best matches the following graph? There's a couple different ways to look at this. You can look at the end behaviors and see which one matches. An easy way to look at it is to look at your zeros. So the zeros are where you cross the x-axis. This one's at -5, +1, and +8, which would make our factors the opposites of these. So we'd have x plus 5, x minus 1, and x minus 8. You can also look at the multiplicities and what happens. Here it bumps, so you know it's going to be squared. Here it bumps, you know it's going to be squared. Here it goes through, so you know it's a 1. What you need to do is look at your answer choices and see which one matches. should get answer C.